Welcome in. What's Right with Nick Wright, episode 216, our annual edition where we discuss the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl. It's a tradition around here. DeMonze is dressed for the occasion, and it is a unique spot to be in where simply by believing in Patrick Mahomes, I get to be the rightest man in sports media. It's as if I covered physics 110 years ago and I just kept betting on Einstein and people were like, how do you do it? Well, what's your secret? It's like, I don't know. He's the best we've ever seen and he seems pretty good. The big picture, we just showed it. Patrick tweeting never a doubt. So I'm going to talk about me and then the big picture, I guess. And I know that there are some people wondering, was that coincidental? I don't want to reveal any confidences, but 100% not coincidental. And in fact, you know what? Patrick won't be mad about this. Patrick hit me right after the Ravens game and text me never a doubt. And then next one, but still more work to do. And I'm not ashamed to say this, I will be totally honest. I said to him, I was like, hey man, I think I called him a legend and then said, if you wanted to tweet out never a doubt, it wouldn't exactly be bad for me. And then 2 hours after winning the Super Bowl, he puts that on Instagram and IG and texts me, I told you I got you. See you at the parade. And it's about as good as it gets, guys. I'm not going to lie to you. Kansas City's very small town, even when its athletes are the biggest stars in the world. And right after the greatest athlete in Kansas City history, arguably the greatest athlete in NFL history, and we will see where he goes down in all of sports history, right after what I consider the crowning moment of his career, the fact that he shouted out what we do on the television show and my never wavering support was a very cool moment. So, big picture wise, why did this seem so obvious to me? Not that there's never an obvious Super Bowl champion, right? It's single elimination. These games are close. They're one-score games. But why did it seem so obvious to me that the Chiefs were being written off in a way that was baffling and that they were as viable as any team? And now everyone is catching up to it. But it was they had the three biggest pieces you need for any Super Bowl champion in any era of football. They had a legitimately great defense that just became one of only a handful of teams in all of NFL history to never allow 28 points in a game. In fact, that defense only allowed 25 points one time all season, which puts them up with some of the greatest defenses we've ever seen. So that was the first check mark that was being overlooked. They had an unquestioned great coach that was in the argument and now is unquestionably the best active coach in the league and one of the greatest coaches ever. And a quarterback who, while I do not think quarterback wins are a stat, I do think there is such a thing for a quarterback as knowing how to win. The reason I don't like quarterback wins as a stat, it's weaponized against certain players or used to laud others, is because there are so often in the NFL, a quarterback does everything he needs to do, leaves the field with the lead, and never sees the ball again and takes a loss. Or when we saw throughout some of this regular season, a quarterback could play great as Mahomes did, and his teammates let him down like happened in week one, his offensive teammates. But what I do think is a real thing is recognizing the type of football that is demanded in given situations and rising to that occasion. And what you saw from Patrick Mahomes on this arc of the postseason was week 1 of the playoffs, wild card round against Miami. What it was going to take was for him, as the tip of the spear, as the leader of the team, to look totally and completely unfazed by negative 30 degrees. And he did that by opening, and redid it by calling 3 straight passes, by opening the game up saying, we are not changing anything. And that game was won, in my opinion, by the mentality of Patrick versus the mentality of Tua and the Dolphins. From Mike McDaniel to Tua to Tyreek to everyone, they looked like they didn't want to be there, and the Chiefs looked like, it's a little chilly out here. What that game took was that you were going to have to show up and just pretend it wasn't the coldest football game of your life. The next game against Josh Allen and the Bills in Buffalo, what that game was going to take from Patrick was perfection. I am going to have to make the big throws down the field, run the ball. I am going to have to make 0 mistakes. And that's exactly what he did. I am not going to have a ton of the super short stuff or the super deep stuff, but because of the injuries to their linebackers, I am going to be able to live in the intermediate part of this field, and that is where he lived. The AFC Championship game in Baltimore, the moment the Chiefs, Patrick needed to come out guns blazing and put the pressure on Baltimore. He did, back-to-back touchdown drives. The moment that happened, and then the Chiefs got up 10, what that game took was punts. Don't turn the ball over. Don't get greedy. As long as every time I have the ball, we're up more than 1 score, all I need to do is make sure I don't give them a score. And in that game, he did nothing the entire second half until the one possession where it was a 1-score game, the final possession, and then he uncorked a perfect 35-yard throw down the middle of the field. That should be noted. When the Chiefs lost to the Eagles and MVS dropped the game-winning touchdown pass, and everyone wanted Patrick to kill him, Patrick went to the podium and said something that I think even I was like, oh my gosh, you might be taking this accountability thing too far. If you remember, he said, I could have thrown it a little bit shorter. And we all were like, give me a break. It hit him in the hands. He was reaching for it, hit him in the hands. Fast forward 2 months later, the biggest throw of the season up to that point, to MVS, same coverage. What does he do? He doesn't lead him. He throws it a little bit shorter to where the ball almost catches MVS, where it lands in his chest to where it's almost undroppable. And then the Super Bowl. What was it going to take from Patrick Mahomes? It was going to take... Go ahead, DeMonte. Go.
I'm going to take some legs. I know that.
Exactly right.
Yeah,
exactly right.
A lot.
Well, and here is what I think blow your mind about it. So we're used to seeing Patrick in the playoffs take off and run. And this is where Andy gets credit and Patrick gets credit. So Patrick, the year they won the Super Bowl, he hurt his knee on a QB sneak. And that was 2019. They took out the quarterback sneaks. Then in 2020, in the playoffs against the Browns, they were running an option play, and the league thought Patrick got concussed. He actually got choked and blacked out, but he got choked on the edge and had to be out for the rest of the game, was ruled out. That was the anything is possible game. That was the playoffs in 2020, okay? The Chiefs had not called a single, this is via Bill Barnwell, a single designed quarterback run from that moment until the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl. They went 60 games without saying the design of this play is for Patrick to keep it and run. But when the moment demanded it, when Nicky Bosa is crashing down and crashing down and crashing down, Patrick takes advantage of that on a triple option designed run for 22 yards. And then with the Super Bowl on the line, trailing in overtime, 4th and 1, designed quarterback run. It's what the moment demanded, so it is what Patrick delivered. Hey, thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button to get more from the show, and make sure to click the bell to get notified every time new content drops. Check out full episodes of What's Right wherever you get your podcasts, or just click the link in the description below.